This is the city of Dandong in northeast China. This rapidly growing place sits right across the Yalu River from North Korea, the world's most isolated and poorly understood country. The difference between the two sides of the river is startling. Dandong looks like many Chinese cities, with a skyline of high-rise office towers and apartment blocks. But there's little life or economic activity to be seen at all on the North Korean side of the Yalu. Dandong is becoming famous in China as a place tourists can come for a peek at the hermit kingdom next door, without having to actually set foot in North Korea. They walk to the end of the broken bridge, which was destroyed by a U.S. warplane in 1953. Today it stands beside the new bridge, across which only a trickle of trade goes in and almost nothing comes out. Tour boat operators leave from Dandong every half hour, taking boatloads of Chinese tourists within a few hundred meters of the shore for a closer look at life on the North Korean side. The tourists laugh, wave, and take photographs of the poverty on display. No one on the other side ever seems to wave back. This area is supposed to be a special economic zone, one of the most highly developed parts of North Korea. Afterwards, the tourists shop for North Korean souvenirs. They buy cigarettes, North Korean money, and the written works of Kim Jong-il. Some of them come simply for the rare look they can get across the river at one of the world's most closed societies. But others come to remember, perhaps, what China itself was like not so very long ago. The poverty and repression across the river are reminders of how far their own country has come in the last few decades. Welcome to the Arirang Mass Games, perhaps the strangest show on earth. Half athletic spectacular, half propaganda exercise, the games are said to have been invented by North Korea's dear leader, Kim Jong-il himself. Held each year in the May Day Stadium in Pyongyang, they involve some 100,000 gymnasts, soldiers, and dancers, as well as 20,000 schoolchildren who work in synchronicity to provide the backdrop for the show. The show takes the audience through the North Korean government's version of history, through the Korean War it claims to have won, and up to the present when it claims to be emerging as a global military power. Homage is paid to the country's controversial nuclear program, as well as to traditional Korean arts, like Taekwondo. Using song, dance, and martial arts, the audience is urged to help develop the economy in time for 2012, the 100th birthday of the country's late founder, Kim Il-sung. The heavy propaganda message almost, but not quite, overwhelms the impressive performance. In the end, the show is most important for providing North Koreans with a rare evening's fun. In this poor and isolated country, you can't put a value on that. This is the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. The peaceful scene here is deceiving. It's the world's most heavily armed frontier, with tens of thousands of soldiers standing ready on both sides of the 4-kilometer buffer area. It's been this way since the Korean War ended in 1953. Tensions rise whenever the United States and South Korea hold military exercises, or when the regime of Kim Jong-il conducts a rocket launch or a nuclear test, as it did earlier this year. 150 kilometers to the north is Pyongyang, capital of the world's most isolated state. Visiting this city of 2.8 million is like stepping back in time to the Cold War, when half the world lived under communist governments. In an apparent fuel shortage, there are few cars or even bicycles. People walk where they're going, even the next city, and the military seems to be everywhere. Throughout their lives, North Koreans are taught to revere the country's founder, Kim Il-sung, and his son, Kim Jong-il. They are brought on mandatory visits to a series of monuments and memorials around the country, and taught to refer to father and son as the great leader and the dear leader. The country is described as a socialist paradise.
This is Pueblo on the spaceship of the U.S. imperialist aggression forces.
Propaganda is used to highlight the ever-present threat posed by the U.S. Army in South Korea. North Koreans are told that the Americans are constantly plotting an invasion and could attack at any time. That perception of a threat is crucial to the military-first ideology of Kim Jong-il. The need to direct resources to the military is used by the regime to explain the country's lack of economic progress. Pyongyang is poor, but the countryside is devastated. Our minders tried to prevent us from filming the scenes here. Images of farmers harvesting their crops by hand is not the picture of a worker's paradise the regime wants to project. The only farm tools we saw was the occasional ox. It all makes sense only as long as North Koreans blame the West, rather than their government, for their struggles. With the regime keeping a tight control on information, how long they will continue to accept the government's propaganda is an open question. For GlobeandMail.com, I'm Mark Mackinnon, with photojournalist Sean Gallagher in North Korea.